Asking a girl for the first time on Valentine's Day can sometimes be a gamble. Should I ask her to go out sometime before Valentine's Day first? Is asking someone out for a first date on Valentine's Day too presumptuous? Should Valentine's Day be reserved for couples who have already reached a certain point in their relationship? And if Valentine's Day is reserved for pre-existing relationships, would she reject my Valentine's Day invitation despite her willingness to say yes on any other day? Also, will that permanently sell me under the category of friend? I wrestled with this idea for 24 full hours before finally deciding to say, screw it. What have I got to lose, other than my dignity? And so, with my newfound bravery, I decided to text her. Very brave of me, right? It went something like this. My first message was, "What are you doing?" She replied with, "Nothing. You?" I answered back, "Trying to make a decision." She replied with curiosity. "A decision about what?" And I replied with hesitations, "Where should we go this Friday?" I got a quick response from her saying, "Are you asking me out for Valentine's Day?" I was hesitating to reply, but I replied with, "Maybe." I was waiting for her reply. It took her time to ask this question. "Where would you take me?" I replied excitingly, "It's a surprise. Are you saying yes?" I got a smiley face replied with a word that says, "Maybe." Little did she know, it wasn't just going to be a surprise for her. In reality, I had no idea where I was going to take her. But that little chocolate-covered lie bought me a bit of time to find a place to go. I started Googling the Valentine's Day events in town. I came up with the usual restaurants inviting couples for their special V-Day dinners, dance club parties, etc. Then, I saw something that stuck out. An event for Valentine's Day festival on a meetup group website. That's different, I thought. I've never heard of a festival for V-Day. It says they'll have food, drink, dancing, and entertainment of many types. I decided that this was the winner and signed us up with our RSVP form. That Friday came quickly. I picked her up around 7 and we drove out to the event, which was a bit outside of town. I was about a 45-minute drive, past a lot of fields and barren areas. When we finally reached the destination on Google Maps, I saw a sign hung on the corner of a small turn-off that read, Valentine's Festival, with an arrow pointing down the dirt drive. We pulled in, and after a few seconds of nothing but trees and bushes, we saw some other vehicles parked in an improvised parking lot fashioned on the lawn. This brought me a sigh of relief, as I really didn't want to look like a complete idiot in front of her on our first date, especially with it being Valentine's Day. We parked, got out. I took her arm in arms as we walked toward what looked like a large outdoor party going on, with lots of lanterns and merry sounding noise. This was definitely the place. I looked at her and noticed a smile. "This looks like fun," she said. I smiled when I saw that she was happy with my decision. We eventually came to a front gate where a woman dressed in period clothing asked to see our RSVPs. I showed her on my phone and she checked off our names on the sheet. We continued inward. To put it lightly, this place was beautiful. There were colored lanterns lights everywhere, soft white string lights defining sections and walkways. An incredible food spread which was as of yet untouched. People dancing, singing, and even some old men dressed in religious wear who seemed to be just as into it as everyone else. Most of them were dressed in the same period clothing as the woman who checked our RSVPs at the gate. And it was all set up in a field with beautiful flowers and greenery all around us. It looked perfect. I was proud of myself for making this decision. She would definitely be impressed. A minute later, we were approached by an older woman who looked happy to see us. "Hello, you must be our guest," she said with a smile. We are definitely two of them," I said. She laughed. "Come with me. We'll get you all set up for the festival. It starts shortly." "Okay," I said, looking at my date. We smiled at each other and started following the woman. She led us to an area with some small wooden booths. I wasn't sure if these were outhouses, phone booths, or what. She said, "You take the one on the left and she can take the one on the right. Inside, you will find clothing to change into." "We have to change clothing?" I asked. "Yes, for the aesthetic of the festival. You're both going to look so cute." I looked at my date. She gave her a half smirk with a shoulder shrug, and she did the same back. We entered our booths. I felt kind of silly wearing this costume clothing, but I was going to play along with everybody else. I exited the booth. She was still in hers. A couple of minutes later, she opened the door and stepped out slowly, wearing a stunning dress of many colors. She looked like a princess. I think she could tell by widening my eyes that I liked it. "See something you like?" she asked. I chuckled. "Absolutely." The woman looked at us both with a satisfied smile. "You both look splendid. We'll keep your clothing in bags for you. Come along." We followed her. She led us to an area with several tables of food and drink and told us to make ourselves at home. We grabbed some small plates of hors d'oeuvre along with some wine. We talked and ate. "How did you find this place?" she asked. "I found it online. Do you like it?" "Of course I do. It's wonderful." After finishing our food, we refilled our wine and headed out toward an area where there were people laughing and dancing to music played by a small group of musicians with string instruments. I asked her to dance, and we danced and laughed and even kissed. A little while later, everybody started moving to another location, so we followed. We came to an area with a large platform like a stage with two chairs in the middle. The stage was decorated with flowers of red, yellow, and orange. Shortly after, a few of those old men in religious garb walked up the steps on the side of the stage, bringing a couple of guests with them and directing them to sit in the chairs. I couldn't wait to see what they were about to do. After the guests in the chairs, a male and a female were seated. The woman who had given us our festival clothing approached the stage, then turned to address the crowd. "As we are here to honor the great Romulus and Remus, creators of Rome, the festival has now begun." Everyone began cheering. "Who?" I whispered my date. "Shh," she said. "Bring her in." said the woman. A large carriage was being pulled by several men toward the stage. When they got closer and people were out of the way, I noticed that there was some sort of animal inside, a very large animal. When the carriage reached the front of the stage, it became clear to me that this was some sort of wolf-like creature. I was getting pretty uneasy by this point. The woman turned toward the guest on stage. "For this part, you will be the goat," she said, pointing at the man. He laughed. She then turned to the female and said, "And you will be the dog." She looked confused and insulted by this statement. The male said, "What?" The woman assured him, "Don't worry, it's part of the celebration." And he seemed to calm down but still looked annoyed. I looked at my date and whispered, "This is getting weird." She replied, "Yeah." Both guests were starting to look woozy, like they were about to pass out. The female guest wine goblet fell to the floor with a loud clanking sound as she slumped over. The male looked over at her, frightened and angry. "What are you doing?" he exclaimed, then looking at his own wine goblet just before passing out. The old men in religious garb started strapping them both into their chairs. I shouted, "What the hell is going on here?" as my date grabbed my arm. The woman placed her hand on my arm, saying, It's okay. This is normal." I looked at her with confusion. The wolf-like creature in the carriage cage was getting upset by my outburst and growling toward me. Back on the stage, the old men in the religious garb started stripping their clothes off until they were completely naked. "Oh, what the hell is this?" I exclaimed. Two of the naked old men picked up large knives and walked in front of the couple in the chairs. Before I even knew what was happening, the old religious men thrust the knives into the couple's chest simultaneously, pulled them out, turned toward the crowd and wiped the bloody blades across their foreheads. Then they started laughing and the crowd cheered. "Oh my God!" I exclaimed, grabbing my date's arm. "We have to get out of here." She looked at me in horror, with tears coming from her eyes. "Don't be frightened," said the woman. "This is all part of the celebration." The wolf-like creature was getting angrier and louder, still looking in my direction. I screamed, "Let's go," at my date. At this point, the woman shouted, "Let her out," as several men started opening the cage of the carriage to let the wolf free. We ran, hand in hand, back in the direction that we came from. I plowed through the people as we ran back toward the entrance gate. We got through the gate and I slammed it shut. We continued running toward the parking lot. The funny part is, when I looked back, nobody was chasing after us. It was like they didn't think there was anything wrong. When we got to the car, I first unlocked her door to make sure she was safe inside, then unlocked mine and I jumped in. And unlike every horror movie I've ever seen, the car started on the first try. We speed away, leaving a dirt cloud in our wake. After a couple of minutes, I finally glanced over and my date was looking tired. She was passing out. Oh no, I thought. We drank the wine. A few minutes later, I started feeling I was about to pass out. Then I decided that we had a better chance of making it if I pulled over. Then I passed out and crashed. So I pulled over and called 911. At least I think I did. I don't remember hanging up. I don't even remember talking to them. All I remember is being awoken by police busting out my window. Ems was on the scene and pulled us both out of the car, loading us into the back of an ambulance. That's the last thing I remember before the next day. When we woke in a hospital the next morning, I learned that our stomachs had been pumped as a preventive measure, as they didn't know what was in the wine that we drank. They had us on IVs all night to keep us hydrated. I told the police all about the festival, the murders, everything. I even gave them the address of the event that I punched into Google Maps the prior evening. Later that day, I received a call from them saying that they checked the address, but there was nothing there. I told them, I know, it's in the middle of nowhere, but it was down a dirt side drive to the left, right by where Google said the address should be. You have to go through the drive and everything is back there in the field. The officer hesitated for a few seconds, then replied, We did see the side drive, and we did go through it. There's nothing back there. No people, no lights, no stages, no garbage left behind, nothing. We spent over an hour looking. There's just nothing there. I then grabbed my phone to bring up the festival group on the Met Up website. As you guessed it, gone.